Stefan Cvetković, freelancer. Pitanje je pre svega nešto što vrlo interesuje. Ono što interesuje javnost danas, jutarnji sastanak sa predsednikom Republike i cela situacija oko toga kako je došlo do sastanka. Kako ocenjujete sastanak današnji? To je prvo pitanje. Sa predsednikom Republike.
First, I will say I find it positive that there is such an interest that the president wanted to meet us when we are here. I'm happy that he had that interest. We had a long discussion with the president, and we raised the topics regarding press freedom, as I raised here. What he actually said that he would fulfill to defend press freedom every week, and I asked him to do it without conditions, and he said without conditions. So I said,